What happens when one of the world's most famous couples is quietly, but unmistakably, snubbed by a nation they hope to charm? Imagine stepping off a plane, expecting smiles, handshakes, and red carpets, only to be met with icy silence, curt refusals, and whispered warnings. Don't come back. This is not a hypothetical scenario, and it's not a plot from a political thriller. This is real life for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Rumors are swirling that the Sussexes are planning a high-profile trip to Australia in 2026, a journey meant to reconnect with the Commonwealth, expand their influence, and possibly reignite the goodwill that has often eluded them. But according to sources close to the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, the thought of their visit is not sitting well, and tensions are reportedly escalating behind closed doors. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. From the moment Harry and Meghan left the United Kingdom, the world has watched their every move, dissected every appearance, and speculated endlessly about their intentions. Some hail them as modern trailblazers, breaking away from centuries-old royal constraints to forge a life on their own terms. Others view them as attention seekers, leveraging fame and controversy to stay relevant. But few could have predicted the intensity of the diplomatic drama now quietly simmering in Canberra, the heart of Australia's political landscape. This story isn't just about a couple and a country. It's about power, influence, public perception, and the fragile relationship between celebrity and state. Picture this. Harry, traditionally seen as the spare in the royal family, once consigned to supporting roles and ceremonial duties, now navigating the complex world of international politics, charity initiatives, and media scrutiny, all under a global microscope. Meghan, equally renowned for her acting career and her outspoken advocacy, is no stranger to controversy, yet she has cultivated a narrative of resilience, self-empowerment, and global influence. Together, they have become a brand, a force, and, for some, a problem. Their planned Australian visit is being treated not just as a travel itinerary, but as a diplomatic event with the potential to ripple across continents. And if reports are accurate, it appears the reception they may receive in Australia will be anything but warm. But why would Australia, a nation with a long history of welcoming British royals, be hesitant, or even hostile, toward the Sussexes? To understand, we need to consider multiple layers: the political climate in Canberra, the sensitivities surrounding royal visits, and the intricate dance of public opinion both in Australia and internationally. Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister, has historically approached Commonwealth relations with careful diplomacy, balancing national interests, public sentiment, and international optics. According to insiders, the idea of hosting Harry and Meghan in 2026 has triggered concern within the Prime Minister's inner circle, sparking debates over protocol, security, and potential media fallout. In private meetings, officials have reportedly expressed worry that the couple's presence could reignite past controversies, fuel sensationalist headlines, and strain Australia's relationship with the monarchy. For Harry and Meghan, Australia represents more than just a destination. It is a symbol of connection to the Commonwealth, an opportunity to expand their global influence, and, potentially, a stage to shape public narratives in a country historically sympathetic to the royal family. Their planned engagements are rumored to include charity visits, public appearances, and meetings with key political figures. But with the Prime Minister allegedly signaling resistance, the trip is taking on the appearance of a diplomatic minefield. What should have been an exciting, career-defining journey now hangs in the balance, clouded by politics, personal histories, and the unpredictable dynamics of public perception. At the same time, the media frenzy surrounding the Sussexes has intensified the stakes. Every statement, every social media post, every appearance is scrutinized for hidden meaning, subtle jabs, or political undertones. Fans speculate endlessly, critics dissect ruthlessly, and governments weigh potential consequences before extending invitations. In this climate, a simple visit to Australia can feel like walking into a room filled with invisible tripwires. Even small missteps can trigger outsized reactions. And for Harry and Meghan, who have already faced public controversies, media attacks, and family tensions, the stakes could not be higher. Consider the broader implications. If Australia openly rejects or snubs the Sussexes, it could set a precedent for other Commonwealth nations. Imagine Canada, New Zealand, or even the United Kingdom itself taking note of the political rebuke. For a couple whose global influence depends in part on public perception, an outright snub from a nation long considered friendly territory could be damaging, both personally and professionally. Conversely, if Harry and Meghan manage to navigate this complex landscape successfully, it could bolster their international standing, reaffirm their status as influential figures beyond the confines of Buckingham Palace, and demonstrate their resilience in the face of adversity. Yet beneath the headlines, there is a human story unfolding. Harry, a prince who has faced immense scrutiny and personal loss, is navigating a world he once knew intimately, but now must approach as a global citizen, a media figure, and a private individual simultaneously. Meghan, with her keen sense of narrative, public engagement, and personal agency, is calculating every move, every message, every potential impact. Their partnership is tested constantly, not just by media and public opinion, but by governments, protocols, and long-standing traditions that they have chosen to challenge or bypass. In many ways, their prospective trip to Australia becomes a microcosm of their lives. High stakes, unpredictable, and intensely scrutinized. Now, let's zoom in on the immediate drama. Sources suggest that the private communications between the Sussexes team and the Australian government have not gone smoothly. Meetings meant to align schedules, secure permissions, and ensure proper protocol reportedly hit roadblocks. Requests for private audiences with the Prime Minister were allegedly met with hesitation, delays, or outright refusal. Some insiders described the atmosphere as tense, with aides on both sides concerned about potential leaks, misinterpretations, or media exploitation. And in a world where one leaked email can dominate headlines for days, the pressure on both sides has been immense. But here's the twist that has the world talking. Despite public statements expressing politeness and cordiality, there are whispers that Albanese's office has privately conveyed a blunt message. The Sussexes' visit is not entirely welcome. The phrase, "don't come back," is reportedly a blunt encapsulation of that sentiment, reflecting both frustration and political caution. Whether this is literal or figurative, whether intended for the press or leaked intentionally, it has sent shockwaves through media outlets, royal commentators, and the global public alike. For Harry and Meghan, this is not just an inconvenience. It is a signal that their reputation, influence, and ambitions may be facing an unprecedented challenge. Now, you might be asking yourself, why does this matter to you? Why should the world care about a royal couple's travel plans or a prime minister's private feelings? The answer lies in the interplay between fame, power, and public perception. Harry and Meghan are not just celebrities, they are symbols. Their actions ripple far beyond personal ambition. Every country they visit, every public statement they make, and every perceived slight they endure has the potential to spark controversy, reshape media narratives, and influence public opinion. The stakes are both personal and global, a delicate dance where diplomacy, celebrity, and public fascination collide. So what comes next? How will the Sussexes respond to a nation's cold shoulder? Will Harry's decades of royal training and Meghan's media savvy be enough to navigate this storm? Can a couple known for defying convention find common ground with political leaders who prioritize national interests over celebrity allure? And most importantly, what secrets are hiding behind closed doors, waiting to emerge in the weeks and months leading up to 2026? The answers to these questions are anything but simple. And here lies the first mini cliffhanger. Insiders hint that during the initial private communications, a startling revelation emerged, one that could shift the balance of power, influence the planned itinerary, and even impact the Sussexes' international standing. But what came next would change everything. And no one saw it coming. What would drive a couple, already world famous, to risk public controversy and political friction simply by announcing, or even planning, a visit? For Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, Australia is more than just a faraway destination on a map. It's a symbolic stage, a place where the Commonwealth's legacy meets contemporary media scrutiny, and where every step is watched, dissected, and broadcasted globally. Rumors that the Sussexes are plotting a trip in 2026 have been circulating quietly, but the tension surrounding it is anything but subtle. Those whispers have ignited debate in political circles, royal circles, and across international media outlets. But what does this trip really signify? And why is the Australian Prime Minister reportedly uneasy? To understand the stakes, we need to rewind a bit. Harry's history with Australia is layered with both affection and complex symbolism. He has visited the country multiple times in his official royal capacity, from attending commemorations to supporting veterans, participating in charity engagements, and even taking part in adventure-based initiatives that cemented his reputation as the Prince of the People. Australia is not new terrain for him, but Meghan is an entirely different equation. She has never carried a royal title in the same capacity in Australia, and every appearance, every engagement, carries an extra layer of scrutiny. When the couple is considered together, their global influence multiplies exponentially, and so does the potential for political sensitivity. Insiders suggest that the initial rumors of the 2026 trip began circulating after a series of discreet conversations between the Sussexes' representatives and Australian diplomatic contacts. While nothing had been officially confirmed, sources say that the mere hint of the visit was enough to spark speculation and media frenzy. Unlike a typical royal tour, which is meticulously coordinated by palace officials and vetted with local governments, this trip is rumored to be largely privately organized, with elements of public engagement interspersed with exclusive, behind-the-scenes meetings. The unpredictability of such arrangements may be why Prime Minister Albanese's office reportedly reacted with caution. So, why is this not just another royal trip? Consider the timing. Australia, like many nations, is navigating a delicate balance between honoring historical ties to the British monarchy and asserting its own national identity. Public sentiment toward the royals has evolved over time, and political leaders are increasingly aware of the optics of every visit. A royal couple who already divides opinion globally presents both opportunity and risk. Their presence could stimulate tourism, charitable attention, and media coverage, but it could also ignite controversy, protests, or unfavorable headlines. In other words, the stakes are high, and the margin for error is razor-thin. At the same time, the Sussexes are known for their strategic approach to public appearances. Harry's extensive experience as a royal, combined with Meghan's media acumen, means they rarely leave details to chance. Each engagement is carefully planned to maximize visibility, impact, and narrative control. For them, Australia is not just a stop on a tour. It's an opportunity to shape perception, reinforce their global brand, and assert independence from the traditional royal structures that they've often criticized publicly. But with this ambition comes friction. Political leaders, including Albanese, reportedly have reservations about appearing to endorse, or even tolerate, a visit that could be interpreted as self-serving or overly performative. The rumor mill intensified when details began leaking to media outlets. Some reports suggested that the couple might attend charity events, meet with indigenous leaders, and engage in environmentally focused initiatives. Others hinted at high-profile, private meetings with government officials, potentially even with the Prime Minister himself. The mere possibility of such encounters has raised eyebrows in Canberra, with aides reportedly questioning whether the Sussexes' presence could be seen as a challenge to protocol. The political calculus is delicate. How do you maintain diplomatic respect without appearing to facilitate celebrity influence over national affairs? And more importantly, how do you handle a couple who thrives on the media spotlight in a country that values privacy and procedure? While speculation spreads across media channels, another layer of complexity emerges: public perception. Australians are deeply proud of their national identity and increasingly sensitive to issues of representation and sovereignty. A royal visit that is perceived as self-promotional or controversial could backfire politically. Some insiders have even suggested that Albanese's alleged reaction, what's been described as a cool, measured, not sitting well, reflects genuine concern about public sentiment. In other words, the Prime Minister isn't just thinking about protocol or personal preferences. He's calculating how this visit could resonate with voters, political allies, and the broader international community. For Harry and Meghan, the rumors have created both anticipation and tension. While the couple has long demonstrated a willingness to embrace high-profile challenges, this trip presents a different type of challenge altogether, one where politics, media, and public scrutiny intersect in unpredictable ways. Imagine the layers of planning required: coordinating with local authorities, securing private venues, managing press access, and, above all, navigating potential resistance from the highest levels of government. A single misstep could dominate headlines worldwide, while a successful visit could reinforce their influence across the Commonwealth. It's high stakes, and they know it. Meanwhile, the media has had a field day. Headlines range from sympathetic, highlighting the couple's charitable intentions, to critical, questioning whether Harry and Meghan are attempting to cash in on celebrity status in foreign lands. Social media erupts with speculation, memes, and debates. Fans express excitement, while critics warn of potential disaster. Even commentators who usually tread lightly in royal matters are weighing in, dissecting every possible scenario and offering predictions about how the trip might unfold or implode. The rumor mill itself has become a story, feeding curiosity and drawing attention from audiences across the globe. But beneath the headlines and social media chatter, there are human elements that rarely make it into public view. Harry, still grappling with the pressures of public life, reportedly experiences a mix of excitement and anxiety at the prospect of returning to Australia. For him, it's an opportunity to connect with people and initiatives that matter personally. Meghan, equally attuned to the optics and messaging, is rumored to be meticulously planning each detail, ensuring that the visit aligns with their brand narrative and personal values. Together, their dynamic is both complementary and intense, combining the strategic instincts of two individuals who know how to command attention while navigating controversy. So what happens when politics and celebrity collide on a global stage? That question is at the heart of the unfolding drama in Canberra. If the Australian Prime Minister perceives the visit as potentially problematic, how might he respond? Will he deny private meetings, impose constraints, or publicly express reservations? And how will the Sussexes navigate a situation where diplomacy and media strategy intersect in unexpected ways? The answers are not straightforward, and the tension is already palpable. The first whispers of friction reportedly came from leaked communications. Sources claim that early discussions about the 2026 trip involved tentative scheduling requests for private meetings with government officials. Some of these requests, according to insiders, were met with delays, polite refusals, or outright cautionary feedback. The phrase, "not sitting well," began circulating among close observers, suggesting that the Prime Minister's office was internally divided about whether to accommodate the couple's plans. While the leaks are unverified, the impact is real. Conversations in media, politics, and royal circles have intensified, each feeding on the uncertainty and raising the stakes further. And then comes the paradox. The more secrecy surrounds the trip, the more attention it attracts. Every rumor fuels speculation. Every cautious statement is interpreted as subtle rebuke. Every delay or adjustment in plans becomes a headline. In this way, the very act of planning a visit, discreetly or otherwise, can generate drama far exceeding the visit itself. For Harry and Meghan, navigating this paradox is a delicate balancing act, requiring a combination of diplomacy, media acumen, and personal resilience. Yet, insiders hint at something even more dramatic. During the earliest stages of planning, a startling revelation surfaced, a message from within the Prime Minister's office that signaled not just caution, but disapproval of the Sussexes' visit. Whether this was delivered formally, leaked informally, or communicated through back channels, it is said to have left aides on both sides stunned. For the couple, this was more than a minor obstacle. It was a reminder that even their global fame cannot override the realities of politics, protocol, and public perception. And here is the cliffhanger for Chapter 1. Some sources suggest that following this initial friction, a private exchange occurred that no one expected. One that could dramatically affect the 2026 trip, the couple's reputation in Australia, and even their standing within the Commonwealth. What happened during that exchange? Who was involved? And could this early conflict set the tone for what might become the most controversial royal visit of the decade? The answers will unfold in the next chapter, revealing that even the best-laid plans can be derailed by unforeseen tensions and hidden agendas. Could a prime minister really deliver a message so blunt, so direct, that even the world's most famous couple would feel the sting? According to insiders, that is exactly what happened when Anthony Albanese's office received news of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's planned trip to Australia in 2026. The alleged response was not subtle. "Don't come back," it is said, was the encapsulation of a sentiment simmering quietly behind the closed doors of Parliament House. Whether those words were literal, figurative, or leaked intentionally, they have ignited a firestorm of speculation, sending shockwaves through royal circles, diplomatic corridors, and international media. From the outside, the Prime Minister's office is a study in precision and control, a place where every statement is weighed for impact and every decision measured against public perception. But insiders paint a different picture. One of tension, heated discussions, and uncertainty over how to handle a royal couple whose presence could attract as much controversy as acclaim. According to sources, early communications regarding the Sussexes' visit set off alarm bells in Canberra, triggering a flurry of internal meetings among senior advisors, protocol officers, and political strategists. The question on everyone's lips: how do you politely, yet firmly, manage a visit by individuals who wield global attention like a double-edged sword? The situation was further complicated by the unique profile of the visitors. Prince Harry, a former senior royal and a figure with decades of ceremonial experience, carries not only the weight of public expectation, but also the lingering shadows of family drama, past scandals, and media scrutiny. Meghan Markle, meanwhile, is equally formidable. She has mastered the art of commanding attention, shaping narratives, and leveraging public platforms to advance both personal and philanthropic agendas. Together, they are not merely celebrities. They are a global phenomenon, capable of generating headlines with a single appearance. For a political leader, this is a complex challenge. One misstep could be interpreted as favoritism, mismanagement, or complicity in a spectacle, while overcorrection risks alienating a couple whose influence cannot be ignored. Reports suggest that Albanese's initial reactions were measured but firm. Private advisors claim he voiced concern over the optics of a royal visit in 2026, highlighting the potential for media sensationalism, public protests, or criticism from political rivals. Even casual statements could spiral into international incidents. Insiders describe heated exchanges within the Prime Minister's inner circle, with some urging a softer, diplomatic approach, while others recommended a firm line to assert Australia's autonomy. In this environment, the rumored phrase, "don't come back," began circulating, capturing the essence of a delicate but tense disagreement that had far-reaching implications. What makes this revelation particularly fascinating is the contrast between public statements and private communications. Officially, no government spokesperson has issued a statement rejecting or criticizing the Sussexes' planned visit. Publicly, the Australian government maintains a tone of neutrality and decorum, carefully sidestepping direct commentary. But behind closed doors, according to insiders, the tone was far more candid. Advisors reportedly warned of the risks of hosting a couple known for their media influence, suggesting that Harry and Meghan's agenda could overshadow Australian interests and potentially cause diplomatic friction. In essence, a trip meant to celebrate ties between the Commonwealth and Australia was suddenly being reframed as a potential liability. Adding complexity to the situation is the nature of Harry and Meghan's anticipated itinerary. Unlike standard royal visits, which follow strictly controlled schedules curated by palace officials and local governments, the Sussexes' trip is rumored to be privately organized, blending public engagements with exclusive, behind-the-scenes meetings. This unpredictability, while offering freedom for personal messaging and media opportunities, creates headaches for government officials tasked with security, protocol, and optics. Sources describe a sense of unease in Canberra. No one wanted to appear obstructive, but equally, no one wanted to be blindsided by controversy on a global stage. Some insiders allege that attempts were made to arrange private audiences between the Sussexes and high-ranking officials, including the Prime Minister. These discussions, however, reportedly hit roadblocks. Requests were delayed, adjusted, or outright declined. Reports suggest that in at least one private meeting, an aide communicated a version of the now infamous sentiment. The visit is not welcome under certain conditions, with an emphasis on avoiding public misinterpretation. Whether or not the phrase, "don't come back," was uttered verbatim, the message was clear. This would not be a traditional royal reception. The political calculus behind such a decision is layered. Hosting the Sussexes in Australia is not merely a ceremonial exercise. It has the potential to influence public opinion, voter sentiment, and international perception. Australia's citizens, historically divided in their attitudes toward the monarchy, are increasingly vocal about their expectations. Some embrace royal engagements as opportunities to celebrate heritage and charity, while others critique them as outdated, performative, or politically fraught. Albanese's office reportedly weighed these factors heavily, recognizing that a royal visit carries the potential to dominate media narratives, overshadow local initiatives, and even spark domestic debate. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan are not unaware of these dynamics. Sources close to the couple suggest that they anticipated some level of caution from political leaders, yet the bluntness of the response reportedly caught them off guard. Imagine the tension. Two individuals accustomed to commanding global attention being met with measured resistance and subtle rebuke, a reminder that fame does not automatically translate into influence. For Harry, used to navigating royal protocol, this was a familiar challenge, but with higher stakes, because political considerations now intersected with personal ambition. For Meghan, the challenge was equally acute, crafting her response while maintaining strategic messaging, managing media expectations, and supporting Harry through the tension. As the weeks progressed, the rumored friction reportedly escalated behind the scenes. Aides on both sides described multiple rounds of correspondence, some formal, some informal, all marked by careful language, cautious phrasing, and keen awareness of potential leaks. Insiders suggest that every email, memo, and conversation was scrutinized for nuance, as the possibility of public exposure could amplify even minor disagreements in a headline news. The narrative was shifting. What began as a simple rumor of a royal visit was transforming into a complex interplay of diplomacy, media strategy, and personal negotiation. The human element cannot be overstated. Beyond the politics and the media speculation, the stress of these interactions reportedly took a toll on Harry and Meghan. Sources describe long hours of discussion, strategic planning sessions, and heated private debates over how to approach Australian officials. Harry, often characterized by a desire to connect authentically with communities and initiatives, reportedly struggled with the constraints imposed by political caution. Meghan, known for her strategic acumen and meticulous attention to messaging, was equally focused on ensuring the couple's intentions were accurately represented and not misinterpreted. The balance between ambition and diplomacy created tension that insiders describe as palpable. And then, as the rumor mill intensified, a particularly explosive leak reportedly surfaced. An aide in Canberra allegedly disclosed a private sentiment from the Prime Minister's office, suggesting that the Sussexes' visit, while technically permissible, would be discouraged unless certain conditions were met. This information, whether verified or speculative, quickly spread across media outlets, amplifying scrutiny and fueling speculation about whether Harry and Meghan could successfully navigate Australian political waters. Headlines questioned the very feasibility of the trip, while commentators debated the motivations behind the alleged snub. But the situation is not entirely bleak for the Sussexes. Sources hint at a potential backchannel, an informal line of communication with sympathetic officials or influential figures capable of mediating tensions. While details remain murky, this thread of hope suggests that strategic maneuvering could still salvage the planned trip. Yet, even this avenue carries risk. A misstep, a leaked conversation, or an unintended public disclosure could turn opportunity into disaster. And here is the cliffhanger for Chapter 2. During one particularly tense exchange between aides in Canberra and representatives for the Sussexes, a shocking revelation reportedly emerged, something so unexpected that it could redefine the terms of the visit, shift public perception, and even spark international controversy. What exactly happened in that private exchange? And how would Harry and Meghan respond to a nation seemingly telling them not to return? The answers will unfold in the next chapter, revealing that no one, not even the most seasoned advisors, was prepared for what came next. Imagine receiving news that a country you hoped to charm is quietly resisting your presence. Now imagine that news filtering back to the very institution you once called home, a place steeped in centuries of tradition, protocol, and expectation. For Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the initial whispers of resistance from Australia did more than spark media speculation. They sent shockwaves through the corridors of Buckingham Palace, igniting a flurry of reactions ranging from concern to outright disbelief. What makes this chapter particularly dramatic is that the royal family is not only watching a couple they have complex feelings about, but they are also witnessing a scenario that could reflect on the institution itself, amplifying tension both publicly and privately. It began quietly. Royal aides, those who have managed sensitive information for decades, first received hints that the Prime Minister's office in Canberra was less than enthusiastic about the Sussexes' rumored visit. Initial communications were deliberately vague, intended to gauge intent rather than provoke alarm. But in the palace, where every nuance is dissected and every rumor evaluated for impact, even subtle hesitation can trigger heightened concern. Sources describe a palpable energy of anxiety. Senior officials huddled in private rooms, whispering over secure lines, and reviewing every available piece of intelligence on how Australia might handle the couple's visit. The shock factor was amplified by the bluntness of the alleged sentiment that made its way back to the palace. Don't come back. Whether this was an informal communication, a leak, or a carefully worded diplomatic caution, it left aides stunned. For many, it was unprecedented. While the royal family has experienced public criticism, media scrutiny, and political tension before, few incidents combined international politics with personal affronts so directly. Imagine aides accustomed to controlling the narrative suddenly confronted with a scenario in which a nation could overtly or covertly reject the presence of two of its former senior members. The implications for reputation, diplomacy, and personal relationships were immense. Inside Buckingham Palace, the reactions were mixed but intense. Some senior aides reportedly interpreted the situation with clinical detachment, analyzing risk, security, and protocol logistics. Others approached it with heightened emotion, worried about how this might affect the couple personally and professionally. Sources describe late-night strategy sessions where aides debated possible courses of action. Should the palace intervene? Should they remain neutral? Or should they support the Sussexes' plans while managing public perception cautiously? Each option carried its own set of risks, and none offered a guaranteed outcome. Harry's response to the news reportedly combined frustration with disbelief. Having left the royal family to carve out his own path, he has navigated immense scrutiny and controversy before. Yet the thought that an entire nation, and potentially other Commonwealth countries, might resist him and Meghan personally seemed almost surreal. Sources suggest that Harry initially wanted to reach out to officials directly, attempting to reassure them of their intentions and the legitimacy of their visit. Meghan, meanwhile, reportedly focused on controlling the narrative, carefully considering how any public statements or media leaks could influence both perception and outcome. Their combined reaction underscores the unique pressure they face, the need to manage personal emotions, public perception, and diplomatic realities simultaneously. Irony and drama abound in these palace reactions. On one hand, Harry and Meghan have long demonstrated a willingness to challenge royal norms, break protocol, and assert independence. On the other hand, the very institution they left is suddenly entangled in the consequences of their plans, forced to navigate a diplomatic and public relations puzzle that they did not anticipate. Aides who had previously managed standard royal tours found themselves considering scenarios that blurred the lines between celebrity management and international diplomacy. Security teams, protocol officers, and communications specialists were all consulted, and some reportedly suggested preemptive contingency plans in case media speculation escalated further. What makes the story even more compelling is the internal debate among palace staff. Some aides reportedly believe the palace should step in subtly, providing guidance and ensuring that both the couple and the host nation understood the stakes. Others argued that intervention might be perceived as favoritism or complicity, potentially undermining the palace's broader neutrality in Commonwealth affairs. In essence, the very presence of Harry and Meghan in discussions about the 2026 visit became a pressure test, revealing hidden fault lines in protocol, hierarchy, and perception management. The media, of course, caught wind of these subtle shifts. Royal commentators, bloggers, and tabloids began analyzing the story from every conceivable angle. Speculation about internal palace turmoil, potential misunderstandings, and strategic missteps fueled public curiosity and engagement. Meanwhile, aides reportedly bristled at the fact that private communications were being interpreted as official statements, adding another layer of tension to an already delicate situation. For Harry and Meghan, the stakes were now personal, professional, and symbolic simultaneously. Every rumor, every interpretation, and every leak was a test of their ability to navigate an increasingly complex web of attention and scrutiny. But beyond logistics, there was also an emotional component. Harry, shaped by decades of media attention, personal loss, and family conflict, reportedly felt a mixture of frustration and vulnerability. The reminder that their presence could be unwanted, even subtly, was a blow to his confidence and his belief in the legitimacy of his efforts to engage with global audiences. Meghan, known for her strategic precision and resilience, reportedly channeled the stress into meticulous planning, ensuring that every move was calculated to maintain control over the narrative. Sources describe countless private meetings, brainstorming sessions, and scenario analyses, all aimed at managing risk while preserving the couple's autonomy. Even within the royal family, reactions were reportedly layered with irony, skepticism, and concern. Some senior figures saw this as confirmation of long-standing challenges in Harry and Meghan's approach to international engagements. Others were reportedly concerned about the broader diplomatic ramifications, particularly if other Commonwealth nations took note of the alleged rebuff. The balancing act was immense. How to respect the couple's agency while managing the symbolic weight of the monarchy and its international relations. It is here, in the confluence of emotion, strategy, and media scrutiny, that the narrative begins to thicken. Reports suggest that during one palace discussion, aides debated whether to warn the couple privately, intervene publicly, or let events unfold organically. Each choice carried potential consequences. A private warning might prevent missteps, but could be perceived as interference. A public statement might control perception, but could inflame media coverage. And inaction could allow rumors and tensions to escalate unchecked. To add to the drama, palace insiders hint at subtle interventions from figures both inside and outside the family. Advisors, close friends, and even former aides reportedly weighed in, each offering their perspective on how best to navigate the storm. Some encouraged patience, others recommended assertive engagement. And throughout it all, the emotional intensity of watching a nation's reaction to the Sussexes' plans was compounded by the knowledge that the couple's every move could be scrutinized globally, magnifying both pressure and potential fallout. But the most dramatic revelation reportedly came when the palace first learned of the alleged blunt sentiment, the "don't come back" directive. According to sources, senior aides were stunned. The phrase, whether literal or metaphorical, encapsulated a blunt rejection that few could have anticipated. Conversations reportedly shifted from procedural analysis to deep reflection on what this meant for the couple personally, the monarchy symbolically, and international perception diplomatically. It was a moment that combined disbelief, concern, and strategic urgency, one that no advisor had encountered in quite this way. And here is the mini cliffhanger for Chapter 3. Just as palace staff were beginning to digest the implications, a confidential leak allegedly surfaced from within Buckingham Palace itself. Something so sensitive it could expose not only the private reactions of Harry and Meghan, but also internal divisions among senior royals. What exactly was revealed? Who was involved? And could this leak change the course of the Sussexes' 2026 visit entirely? The answers lie in the next chapter, revealing the full extent of how deeply the palace was shaken by a nation's subtle, yet unmistakable, rebuke. Could a simple royal visit really ignite political tension, diplomatic headaches, and public scrutiny? History tells us that yes, it can, and sometimes it has. Long before Harry and Meghan's rumored 2026 trip to Australia, royals have repeatedly collided with political leaders, often in ways that revealed the fragile balance between ceremony, celebrity, and statecraft. Understanding these historical precedents is essential to grasp the magnitude of what the Sussexes may be facing, and why a seemingly routine visit could spiral into controversy. Take, for instance, the dramatic story of Prince Andrew and the fallout from his 2001 visit to the United States. At the time, he attended official engagements and charitable events meant to strengthen Anglo-American ties. Yet behind the scenes, political advisors struggled with the optics of his actions, particularly in relation to sensitive diplomatic issues and media narratives. The prince's personal choices, public statements, and associations became fodder for headlines, creating tension not only for the royal family, but for government officials attempting to navigate a diplomatic path. While the scale and specifics differ from Harry and Meghan's situation, the principle is the same. A royal's personal actions can have political repercussions, and governments must respond strategically to protect national interests. Similarly, consider Queen Elizabeth II's 1980s visits to Commonwealth nations, including Australia. These tours were often meticulously choreographed, with precise attention to protocol, security, and public messaging. Yet even the Queen, whose presence commanded respect and admiration, sometimes encountered unexpected friction. Political leaders occasionally had to manage public expectations, domestic criticism, and behind-the-scenes logistical challenges that could easily become international headlines. The contrast between official appearances and private political considerations demonstrates how delicate royal visits can be, even when the visitors are highly respected. Harry and Meghan's scenario adds a new layer of complexity. Unlike past royal visits led by long-serving monarchs or princes, the Sussexes' planned journey is colored by controversy, media attention, and their self-styled role as global influencers. They are no longer purely ceremonial figures. They are cultural icons, media personalities, and, to some extent, political actors. The question for Australia is not merely how do we host visiting royals, but how do we manage the optics of celebrity influence without compromising national interest? History shows us that political leaders rarely welcome unpredictability in such high-profile contexts, and any perceived misstep can escalate rapidly. One particularly relevant precedent involves Princess Diana's visits in the 1980s and 1990s. While Diana was beloved by the public, her private actions, charitable initiatives, and media interactions sometimes clashed with the expectations of both the palace and government officials. Her ability to capture public attention was extraordinary, but it also required careful management by political leaders who had to balance public enthusiasm with diplomatic protocol. Diana's experience underscores a key lesson for Harry and Meghan. Media attention, influence, and public perception are double-edged swords. The very factors that enhance their global presence also heighten the risk of friction with political leaders. Another historical example worth examining is the 2011 visit of Prince William and Catherine, then newlyweds, to Canada and other Commonwealth nations. While the couple was welcomed warmly, officials were meticulous about managing every detail, security, engagements, public appearances, to avoid controversy. Any misstep, even minor, could have been interpreted as a diplomatic slight or a breach of protocol. The intense preparation behind the scenes reflects the lesson that a royal visit is never simply ceremonial. It is a complex interplay of tradition, politics, and public perception. Harry and Meghan's planned 2026 trip appears poised to challenge these norms, adding unprecedented variables to the equation. But what truly sets the Sussexes apart is their media strategy and their willingness to bypass traditional royal channels. Historically, royals operated within a framework of discretion, relying on palace communications teams and official press officers to manage narratives. Harry and Meghan have demonstrated a different approach, direct engagement with global media, strategic leaks, and public storytelling that often sidesteps official channels. This shift introduces a level of unpredictability that political leaders, including Australia's Prime Minister, may find disconcerting. The risk is no longer merely ceremonial or logistical, it is reputational, political, and, potentially, personal. History also teaches us that political leaders respond differently depending on the context and the perceived intentions of visiting royals. When a visit aligns with national interests, emphasizes charitable engagement, or reinforces diplomatic ties, it is often embraced enthusiastically. When a visit is seen as self-promotional, controversial, or media-driven, leaders may retreat, delay, or, in extreme cases, issue subtle rebukes. The alleged "don't come back" sentiment reportedly communicated by Albanese's office echoes this historical pattern, a careful balancing act designed to assert control while avoiding overt confrontation. The emotional stakes for Harry and Meghan, however, are uniquely intense. Unlike past royal figures, they are acutely aware of global attention, media narratives, and their personal brand. History shows that missteps can haunt royals for decades, influencing both public perception and personal reputation. For the Sussexes, every planning decision, public engagement, and private communication carries the weight of potential scrutiny. The lessons of the past are not abstract. They are living guides that inform every choice and every strategic move. Moreover, the dynamics of the Commonwealth have evolved significantly. Nations like Australia, Canada, and New Zealand are increasingly vocal about national identity, independence, and the role of monarchy in contemporary society. Leaders must weigh the symbolic importance of royal visits against domestic expectations, political strategy, and public opinion. Historical precedents demonstrate that even the most revered royals can encounter resistance when their presence intersects with political sensitivities, public sentiment, or media narratives. Harry and Meghan's journey is poised to test these boundaries in ways that have few historical parallels. Consider the added layer of media amplification. In previous eras, royal visits were reported primarily through newspapers and broadcast media, with the palace managing messaging carefully. Today, global social media platforms, instant news cycles, and public commentary multiply scrutiny exponentially. A subtle rebuff, a delayed meeting, or an unexpected protocol decision can generate immediate international headlines. Historical lessons caution that royals and political leaders must navigate both the public and private dimensions of engagement carefully. For Harry and Meghan, this amplifies both opportunity and risk. Their influence is unparalleled, but so too is the potential for misinterpretation or backlash. And then there is the human element, often overlooked in historical analysis. Royals are not merely symbolic figures. They are individuals with emotions, ambitions, and personal histories. Harry, shaped by decades of intense media scrutiny, family conflict, and personal loss, is navigating both public expectation and private desire simultaneously. Meghan, equally aware of optics and messaging, brings strategic precision and media acumen to the table. Their choices are informed not just by tradition but by lived experience, making the stakes intensely personal as well as profoundly public. So, as we reflect on historical precedent, one thing becomes clear. Harry and Meghan are operating in a space where history, media, politics, and personal ambition collide. Every decision echoes past lessons while introducing unprecedented variables. And just as royals have faced scrutiny, political rebuke, and public debate for centuries, the Sussexes are now stepping into a scenario where history itself may hold both warning and insight. What happens when private discussions about a royal visit become public fodder overnight? For Harry and Meghan, the rumored 2026 trip to Australia wasn't just a logistical challenge. It became a media storm almost the moment whispers started circulating. Leaks, speculation, and unverified sources have a way of taking on a life of their own, and in this case, the consequences are anything but minor. The moment Canberra's private concerns reached media ears, the narrative shifted. The Sussexes' planned visit became not just a matter of protocol, but a global headline, complete with conflicting reports, public outrage, and viral commentary. The first waves of leaks reportedly came from within political channels. Aides in Canberra, concerned about public perception, may have shared informal updates with journalists, some unintentionally, some deliberately, to gauge reaction or influence narrative. Sources suggest that phrases such as "not sitting well" or "don't come back" began circulating in hushed reports, creating immediate curiosity and speculation. Media outlets, hungry for royal content, amplified these fragments, often without context, creating a feedback loop that intensified scrutiny and anxiety. Suddenly, what should have been private discussions became the subject of international debate, with audiences dissecting every nuance, word choice, and implied meaning. For Harry and Meghan, the leaks were a double-edged sword. On one hand, the media attention ensured that public anticipation and engagement around their visit remained high. Every new headline, rumor, or social media post added to the narrative of importance, influence, and intrigue surrounding them. On the other hand, leaks introduced volatility, uncertainty, and the constant threat of misrepresentation. When unofficial information becomes global news, even the most meticulous planning can be undermined. Sources suggest that the couple's communications team immediately went into damage control mode, scrutinizing each report, preparing clarifications, and attempting to shape public perception while remaining diplomatic. The frenzy wasn't limited to mainstream media. Social media platforms erupted with speculation. Fans debated every potential outcome, whether Harry and Meghan would be welcomed warmly, rebuffed subtly, or entirely sidelined. Memes, tweets, and viral threads dissected supposed motives, questioned political intent, and even speculated on private conversations between the Prime Minister and the couple. In this digital environment, information spreads faster than fact-checking, meaning that a single unverified leak can dominate discourse for days, shaping perceptions before any official statements are made. Adding drama, insiders suggest that some palace aides were frustrated by the leaks, viewing them as a breach of discretion and a potential threat to diplomatic strategy. After all, managing royal visits requires careful timing, message control, and alignment between governments and the palace. When information leaks prematurely, it complicates everything: security logistics, media coverage, and public sentiment. In the case of Harry and Meghan, the leaks amplified scrutiny on both sides of the world, within Buckingham Palace and across Canberra, creating a complex web of anxiety, speculation, and pressure. Even within the palace, reactions to media reports were intense. Sources describe late-night meetings where aides and senior officials reviewed news coverage, dissected social media trends, and debated how to respond without creating further escalation. The leaks, while frustrating, also revealed the global magnitude of attention surrounding the Sussexes. Every minor report had the potential to snowball into international controversy, and every misstep could ripple across diplomatic channels. For Harry and Meghan, managing perception became as critical as planning the visit itself. The emotional stakes were high. Harry, who has faced relentless media scrutiny throughout his life, reportedly felt the leaks as both a personal affront and a professional challenge. Meghan, attuned to the power of narrative and public perception, reportedly approached the situation strategically, analyzing coverage and anticipating how each piece of information could impact the couple's objectives. Their combined response reflects a delicate balancing act, addressing misinformation, maintaining credibility, and protecting personal dignity, all while respecting the sensitivities of a foreign government. Interestingly, some leaks reportedly originated from individuals outside official channels. Political commentators, palace insiders, and anonymous sources contributed to a swirling mix of fact, conjecture, and interpretation. The result was a media environment in which certainty became impossible and speculation reigned supreme. Headlines ranged from sympathetic coverage highlighting the couple's philanthropic intentions to critical stories suggesting self-interest and diplomatic naivety. For global audiences, the narrative was already set. The Sussexes' visit was controversial before it even began. Humor, irony, and drama were not absent from public reaction. Memes comparing Harry and Meghan's anticipated reception to a royal red carpet rejection circulated online. Commentators debated every possible scenario. Would they be welcomed with pomp, quietly tolerated, or subtly rebuffed in ways designed to send a message? Even satirical media picked up on the tension, blending reality with hyperbole to create viral moments. While such content might seem trivial, insiders warned that public perception and media framing can heavily influence political decisions, security arrangements, and official invitations. As the frenzy continued, insiders suggest that the leaks had a secondary effect. They intensified behind-the-scenes maneuvering. The Prime Minister's office, aware that the world was watching, reportedly refined its messaging, emphasized caution to staff, and considered the optics of potential engagement with the Sussexes. Simultaneously, Buckingham Palace officials reportedly coordinated with aides on the ground, preparing contingency plans, messaging strategies, and risk assessments. The leaks effectively forced both sides to operate in a high-pressure, hyper-visible environment long before the trip had been confirmed or formalized. But leaks were only part of the equation. Whispers and rumors, often more persistent than official statements, added layers of uncertainty. Speculation about private meetings, potential media coverage, and public receptions created a climate of anticipation mixed with anxiety. Some whispers suggested that Harry and Meghan might attempt unconventional engagements designed to bypass official channels. Others implied that the Prime Minister could intervene in subtle ways to prevent perceived missteps. The combination of leaks and whispers created a complex landscape in which uncertainty and interpretation were as important as facts. The emotional dimension cannot be overstated. Harry reportedly experienced a mixture of frustration, incredulity, and determination. The leaks, while challenging, also served as a reminder of the global reach and influence he and Meghan wield. Meghan, meanwhile, reportedly treated the situation as a strategic puzzle, meticulously planning responses, communications, and potential engagements to maintain control over the narrative. Together, the couple navigated a situation that combined personal, diplomatic, and public pressures in ways that few others could understand fully. And just when the situation seemed tense enough, insiders hint at an explosive development, a leak so sensitive it could potentially expose private intentions, internal conflicts, and behind-the-scenes reactions from both the palace and Australian officials. This leak, whether intentional or accidental, reportedly has the power to reshape public perception, influence political decisions, and complicate the Sussexes' plans dramatically. It is a reminder that in today's media environment, no private discussion remains private for long, and every word can carry international consequences. What happens when a meeting designed to smooth tensions never actually takes place? For Harry and Meghan, the rumored private meeting with key Australian officials, potentially including Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, was supposed to be a turning point. A chance to align expectations, clarify intentions, and establish goodwill before their planned 2026 trip. Yet according to insiders, the meeting never happened as planned, and the absence of this critical encounter created a vacuum filled by speculation, anxiety, and media frenzy, escalating what could have been a routine discussion into a full-blown international story. The idea for the private meeting reportedly originated months before the planned visit. Palace aides and the Sussexes representatives were said to be coordinating discreetly with Canberra, aiming to ensure that the couple's engagements would be both meaningful and diplomatically acceptable. Meetings with senior officials were proposed to confirm schedules, discuss security protocols, and address potential political sensitivities. But despite careful planning, the initiative hit an unexpected snag. Hesitation within the Prime Minister's office, mixed signals from advisors, and what some insiders describe as a subtle desire to maintain distance. Imagine the tension. A couple accustomed to orchestrating media narratives and carefully curated appearances, expecting a diplomatic handshake behind closed doors, only to encounter silence, delays, and uncertainty. According to sources, aides from both the palace and the Sussexes team attempted repeated follow-ups, hoping to confirm a date, finalize agendas, and establish the tone for a smooth engagement. Yet each communication seemed to drift into ambiguity. Messages were responded to with polite caution, schedules were shifted, and officials cited procedural complications. The longer the delay persisted, the more anxious the couple and their team became. Harry reportedly viewed the postponement with growing frustration. He is a man used to direct action, clarity, and resolution, having spent decades in high-pressure environments where ambiguity can be costly. For him, The inability to secure the meeting was not just inconvenient, it was disheartening. Meghan, on the other hand, approached the situation strategically. She is known for her patience, her attention to narrative, and her ability to manipulate perception when necessary. Sources suggest she considered every angle. What could the delay imply? How might media interpret it? And what opportunities existed in turning the non-meeting into a calculated statement? The palace, for its part, reportedly watched the situation unfold with a mixture of concern and strategic calculation. A private meeting between the Sussexes and the Prime Minister would have been unprecedented in modern times. While royal engagements often involve high-level interactions, the informal, semi-private nature of this proposed discussion created anxiety among aides. Would it set a precedent? Could it be misconstrued as endorsement or favoritism? And how would it reflect on the monarchy's neutrality in Commonwealth affairs? Each of these questions added layers of complexity to what might have otherwise been a straightforward diplomatic engagement. Compounding the tension was the media's immediate response to the delays. Rumors that the private meeting might not take place quickly became headlines. Speculation ranged from polite avoidance to outright political rebuke. Commentators debated whether Albanese's office was intentionally sidelining the Sussexes or merely exercising caution.